this place clears out when all the kids leave. That's awesome. Do we have any graduates here today? If you graduated yesterday, will you stand? Okay, we don't. We are having a graduation service next week, but with Mother's Day and everything. We're also going to have the youth service next week, so we will be looking forward to that. So today's Mother's Day, so get to talk about moms today. I find it kind of difficult when it comes to talking about mothers or fathers, because everybody's got a different mom, everybody's got a different, so it's like, what do you talk about? Because everybody, I've got a younger sister that's 18 years younger than me, and my mom, when she was my mom, was a different mom than she was when she was my younger sister's mom. She was a lot easier when my younger sister came along. So even in the same family, a lot of times you don't have the same mom, and that's good, because I hope I'm not the same person that I was when my first set of twins were born. And so today what I want to do, I'm going to talk about moms. We're going to talk about Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31 talks about godly woman. And so we're going to talk, and this is a little bit like when we talked about leaders. There is a standard sometimes set by the Bible that we can't obtain, but we are to strive to obtain. And so sometimes we look at a standard of somebody that we hope one of these days to be. I'm not saying, like when I talked about leaders, I'm not saying that we can obtain that right now or that I expect this out of everybody, but I hope that as we go through this, when you think about your mom, that you would see some of the aspects or some of the attributes that we're talking about today, that you would see that in your mom. Or if you're a young mother, I hope that maybe you would look at this and say, that's the kind of mom I want to be. So, Proverbs 31, we're going to start now. I want to start with verse 1. It says, the words of King Lemuel, and an oracle that his mother taught him. Does anybody know who King Lemuel is? Yeah, me neither. King Lemuel, and so I got to looking this up because I'm like, we've just been through kings in Sunday school. We've just been through all of these, and I don't remember Lemuel. So it says, we don't know very much about King Lemuel. His name means for God or devoted to God, and it certainly seems that the meaning of his name accurately describes his character. Some commentators think that Lemuel was actually King Solomon, which means his mom would have been Bathsheba, and he was desiring to write down her teachings to him. Now in that, they think that maybe the mom had like a different, like a pet name or a name for him, and he would have wrote it like from her point of view, so he used the name his mom would have called him. That's their theory. They don't know. Others believe he could have been the wise and good King Hezekiah, which it does talk about Hezekiah and his mom's influence on him. Hezekiah had a good mom that did influence his reign. One of the best kings of Israel. Hezekiah was one of the best kings of Israel, thus making this chapter a reflection of his mom's instruction to him. Still others believe that Lemuel could have been a fictional character made up by Solomon as a depiction of an ideal king and queen mother. Then there are, and it wasn't in this, but there is another that believes it was a Gentile king, the king of Manasseh. So we don't really know who Lemuel is. But this chapter, talking about godly women, is King Lemuel and his mom. And it wasn't written as, a lot of Proverbs are just little sayings here and there that get put together. This is like one solid poem. So it isn't like they pulled things here and there. They wrote this all at one time as one poem. But I don't want to go into verse 2 yet. I want to skip to verse 10. And we're going to read 10 through 31, and then we're going to come back, and we are going to break it down as we go through this. An excellent wife who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and on all the days of her life. She seeks wool, flax, and with willing hand, like ship of the merchant. Am I skipping out? Okay. She is like we got batteries. I just need to stand to the side. I think sometimes She is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruits of her hands she plants a vineyard. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the staff, and her hand holds the spindle. She opens her hands to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates, and when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom and teaching, and kindness is on her tongue. She looks well on the way of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. Okay, I highlighted verse 30, because everything here revolves around verse 30. And it says, charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Now let's go back to verse 10. An excellent wife who can find. She is far more precious than jewels. Well, there's a lot said in that little verse. You know, I believe family is extremely important. I believe that it is the first institution put together by God in Genesis. And there is such strength in a godly family and a family that is together that Satan comes against it and attacks it in every way that he can. Because he knows when kids are raised in a good family that they have such a strong chance of being successful and walking with God. I think that's why we see so much struggle in families and families trying to get along. I also believe moms are the heart of the family. And I was watching some videos on this, trying to get some ideas, and there was this one lady that said, a mom is either going to give to the family or take away from the family. There's really no middle ground. And so, as we look at this woman, a good mom, a good wife, she is more precious than jewels. She is beneficial. The heart of the family, her whole purpose is for the family. And I can even see that compared to my mom and my wife, compared to my dad and me. A husband and a man's place in the family is different than a mom's. The things that we worry about are different things. And we'll get into some of this in a little bit, because as we go through this and we kind of break down what's saying, it's kind of wrote in the society of the time kind of way. But when we break this down, we see that a mom, man, her focus a lot of times is all about the family, all about the Lord, and a lot of the things that they do. The heart of her husband trusts her, and he will have no lack of gain. Man, there's a lot said in that. There's a lot said in a lot of these verses. Man, a good, godly wife and a good, godly mother to your children, and you can trust her. And you can trust that she's going to do what's right by the family. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. Okay, she seeks wool and flax. These are the things you'd make clothing out of. So she goes and finds the wool, and she goes and finds the flax. And here in a little bit, down here in 19, it says she puts her hands to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. And this is talking about making clothing. So she goes out and finds the stuff to make the clothes. Now, not everybody's life is going to be like this, okay? I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit. But, and we can obviously tell that this was a queen, so she's writing this from a privileged point of view. We're going to see some of the things that she talks about, how you can tell this is a wealthy person. But even when we're not wealthy, moms take to heart, and I know a lot of moms, whether they have money or not. When I was a kid, we didn't have a lot. We were farmers in the 80s. Small farm in the 80s. But I always had good clothes to wear to church. My mom actually would go to TG&Y down here and buy the little patterns, and she would make us clothes. Well, you don't see that anymore. I remember that whole section over there with the great big table, that wooden table that you'd lay everything out on. Now, so sometimes you're having to get the wool, but a mom, and this is even more so than the dad, because I can take my kids and we'll be out in the shop and I'll get them and run to town to do something, and then I get home and my wife will go, "Tell me you didn't take my kids to town looking like that." Any of the guys relate to that? And I'm like, well, what's wrong? I mean, they had something on. I mean, I never see it. And until I started reading this passage and I understand, it's part of a mom's job a lot of times to make sure they got clothes. They might not be the best clothes, but they've got clothes. They've got good, clean clothes. And no matter how worn out they are, a lot of times they're clean. And she works with her hands willingly, making clothes, working on things. She is like the ships of a merchant. She brings her food from afar. Well, if you think about a merchant, they're going to go out there, and what are they going to get? They're going to get the things that people need in another place, and they're going to get the cool things, the things that they can sell and make money on. So it's saying that a mom is like somebody that goes out and tries to find the best deals, and she gets stuff from afar, whether it be food or clothes or whatever the family needs. And I'll tell you what, I can watch women go, and a lot of these women never buy things for themselves, they always buy things for their kids. But they will find deals, and I make fun of my wife for wanting to shop, but she'll come home with stuff, and it's like pennies on the dollar for what she would have had to pay if it was on a regular shelf. Why? Because the family is important to her, and it's all about taking care of our family. And I see this with women in general a lot of times. They're good at getting bargains. I'm the kind of guy that if I need it, I'm going to go get it. I don't have time to mess with that. But she's always, and my mom was the same way. She'd always find deals somewhere. She would always get stuff. And you think about the work of the people that run the merchant ships, and they're always trying to find that one special thing and bring it from afar. They're always looking. Do we got the right food? Do we have the right clothes? Do we have the right... She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. There again, it's all about taking care of people. Where does she get this? Well, when we look at verse 30, it's because she's a woman that fears the Lord. All of this revolves around somebody that wants to do what God wants. Now, she considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. Okay, I like the fact that it says she considers a field. She doesn't just go out and on a whim she buys something. She's got that wisdom that is going to talk about in a little while, and she sees something. And why is she buying a field? Well, again, if you look at it, it's to benefit the family. It's to make some money. Now, sometimes we make money by going out and buying a field or getting a job, and this is where a lot of different people's lives look a lot different. We do what we have to do to take care of the family. For some people, that's going out and getting a job. For some people, that's staying at home. Like my mom, when we were farming, she would stay home, and she would cook things from scratch, and we've spent very little money going to town and doing anything. But that was the way my mom saw to bless the family, to help my dad. other women, and sometimes you find yourself in a place to where maybe you're on your own. You have to go get a job. That's not in any way taking away from the motherhood that you have. You're doing what you have to do to support your family, because that is a very, very precious thing to most moms. But she considers the field, and she prays about the field. She just doesn't go out and blow a bunch of money and go, oh, let's see if this works. She's very thoughtful and monotonous about, what am I going to do? How is this going to work? And she considers it. The fact that it puts it in there, she prays about it. She thinks about it. And then she goes out, and that's another thing my mom used to do, is we used to have this huge garden. And I remember one time we had ducks, and my mom had these 2 rows of awesome strawberries. And I kept getting in trouble for eating all the strawberries. And I'm like, Mom, I had a couple. Well, it was the ducks. I'm like, it's the ducks eating all your strawberries. But my mom used to can things. She used to, we had strawberry jam. We had canned green beans. We had so much stuff from the garden. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Okay. Her thought process is, what can I do to make this family work? What can I do to bring in? Now, like I said, sometimes that's, I have to go out and get a job. That's what we got to do to make things work. Or I got to do this, or I got to do that. A good, godly woman that is a mother and a wife supports the whole household. And I think I can see that in so many godly women that I have been around. Their whole life revolves around their family. Her lamp does not go out at night. And there's a lot being said there. She's not one of those people that runs out of oil in the middle of the night. She's got all the supplies she needs. Again, we go to the grocery store, I get what I need. My wife gets a whole cart full of stuff because we're going to need this eventually. And I'm like, all I wanted was, a bag of chips. But yet, when I'm going to the pantry and there's canned green beans there, I'm so thankful that there's canned green beans there. Man, mom's got a lot going on in their mind to take care of the family. She doesn't let her lamp go out at night. She makes sure that the things that the family needs are there when they need it. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hands to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. So not only does she supply what the family needs, she also has a heart to give to the lost, to give to the needy, to give to the people that need it. And when you get things going and you got a family, and a lot of times when you have a mom that supplies things like they need and they don't let the oil go out, you have extra stuff to actually give to needy people at times. Man, our mom's awesome. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes bed covering for herself, and her clothing is of fine linen and purple. Okay, there's a couple things here. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. And then here in a little bit it talks about the purple. Purple is a very, very interesting thing when you look at the Old Testament and the New Testament to some extent. The dye that you need to make the color blue and to make the color purple is very, very, very hard to come by. Okay? Lydia, in the book of Acts, which Paul meets along the river, and they're having a little Bible study. Paul walks into, I can't remember the name of the town at the moment, but he walks into town, and he walks down by the river, and he just happens to find some people worshiping Jesus right there. And there's Lydia. Lydia was a seller of purple. That's the way the Bible describes her. She was a seller of purple, and she was a very, very wealthy lady. Why was she so wealthy? Because purple is for royalty. People that wear purple back in the day, they had some clout. Because it was so expensive and so hard to make that it cost some money. So when she says that she is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household is clothed in scarlet, you're not going to dye a piece of clothing scarlet unless it's a quality piece of clothing. She's not afraid of the snow because she knows her family has got quality clothing that's going to keep them warm. Otherwise, they wouldn't be scarlet. Interesting thing. In Numbers 15:38, God commands the Israelites, when they wear the little tassels, they have one strand of it to be dyed blue. And that's so that they would remember the commandments. It's also the color of royalty. So you took slaves out of Egypt, and then in Numbers, God commands them to wear the color of royalty because it was so hard to come by. And I just saw this thing on the TV about they would go down to the ocean and find these certain kind of little seashells, and they somehow would get the blue dye out of these seashells, and they still do it today. And they had this guy that was interviewing the process of how they make this blue dye for these tassels that they make, but it's very expensive, very extensive process. So anytime you're looking at the Bible and you see a reference to purple or blue, it's kind of an interesting deal, because it insinuates higher status. And I think it's so cool that God commanded the slaves that came out of Egypt to start wearing the royal color. That's just our God. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. In other words, it's quality clothing. Bed coverings at the time was kind of a bag thrown with hay in it, so the fact that it talks about linens and bed is just an extra step that she's doing to take care of the family. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. Her husband is respected. This refers to going into a council and being around the people and the people respecting the husband. You know, there are a lot of times that a wife can give credit to a husband, and there are a lot of times that a wife can take away from the credit of a husband. When we look at church leadership, a wife can take a man out of the running for church leadership just by her actions. But here, a godly woman, she gives her husband respect just by the way she acts and the way she takes care of things and the way she does things. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchants. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she doesn't worry about tomorrow because she walks with the Lord. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teachings of kindness is on her tongue. And that's awesome. It's awesome for a husband to know that she is going to speak with wisdom to his kids. It's awesome to know that she's going to teach the word, not just to the kids, but to anybody around. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teachings of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. You know, there's nothing wrong with sitting down and watching TV and relaxing a little bit in the evening. There is something wrong with never getting anything done because you just are too idle. She's about the business. If something needs to be taken care of. And this is another thing that I will say. I know more busy women, and it's not just about being busy. It's about doing the things that are needed. But I know men are able to come in at the end of the day and sit down and relax. And it's a true thing that we can come in and we can sit down and we can decompress a little bit. And a lot of times our wives are running around the house taking care of things and getting ready for things for the morning. She looks well in the ways of her household, and she does not eat the bread of idleness. If something needs to be taken care of, she takes care of it. If something has to be lined up for the day that is coming, she takes care of it. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. For many women have done exceedingly, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Amen. Give her of the fruit of her hand, and let her works praise her in the gate. There, it's talking about her reputation. Let her have a good reputation in the community. A lot of times when you have a woman that takes care of her family and does what needs, it spills over into the community, and they do. They take care of the community. They're the people come to get things done. Now, this being said, I understand everybody's walk is different. Everybody's life, we're all trying to chisel out a life out of different circumstances. And sometimes what may fit this bill to one person is not going to be the same to the next person. But I see so many people. And we have such a blessing of kids in this church. I can't help but smile every time I'm in the back, and it's like a parade, and it's always different characters running through there, the same kids, but different characters, because they're all, it's just hilarious. And Carly and Isaac, they have the patience. But the moms and the dads that see it fit to have their kids here. And sometimes you find yourself trying to fit this bill, and maybe the dad's not there. You know what? You can still fit this bill. It might look a little different. But I know there's been a lot of people raised in Christian homes, where it's the mom. Moms are important. A godly mom is invaluable. Now let's look at verse 1 again. And let's look at the advice she's giving to her son. And it says, this is the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. And she says, what are you doing, my son? What are you doing, son of my womb? What are you doing, son of my bowels? Do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. Okay, what she's talking about here in a very nice manner is sexual immorality. Son, watch yourself. Stay pure. Don't do the things that will destroy kings. Because some of those times you can get caught in such a trap. Man, isn't that wise? I mean, we just saw that she opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is in her tongue. Now we're going to look at it. Do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to take strong drink, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed. Man, don't be a drunkard. You can't function. No, this is her recommendation. If you drink strong wine, you're going to forget what decreed, and you're liable to go against the laws of the land. You're a ruler. Act like one. Then I find it interesting what she says. Let's see. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to take strong drink, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed, and pervert the rights of the afflicted. Okay? Give strong drink to the one who is perishing, and wine to those in bitter distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their misery no more. That's pretty strong. Well, the Bible doesn't say we can't drink. I hear that from a lot of people, but when you look at this, look at the wisdom that's coming from her. Let the ones that are perishing be the drunkards. That way they can forget their misery. Wow. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and the needy. You watch yourself. You're a ruler. And you defend the people that can't defend themselves. So, then you go into verse 10, and it talks about all the things that we just talked about. And then you go back and you look at the advice that she gives to her son, and I was like, wow, she has some wisdom. Sometimes wisdom is kind of hard. Moms are a special gift. I hope and I pray that when you think of your mom, that you see some of these attributes. And I know there are some people that can look at their mom and they probably don't see any. And that breaks my heart. I hope if you're a mother here today, especially a young mother, that you can take the words of Proverbs 31 and you can try to apply that to your life to be the kind of mom that this is talking about. Being a mom like this will change people's lives. If you think you have a ministry and you're a mother, here it is. A mother and a father, their first ministry is to their children. I want to thank you if you're a mother here today, and especially if you're a mother here today and your kids are here, thank you. I greatly appreciate that, because my Lord and Savior deserves for your kids to know who He is. And sometimes it's not easy. Carly gets up here and plays. She's got 3 kids, and this morning she had my other grandkids, so she had 5 kids to get around this morning and get in here at 8 o'clock so that she could play the piano for us. Being a mom's not easy. Being a godly mom isn't easy. But it's probably one of the most important things that you can ever do.